Texas Senate candidate James Talarico finally responding to a barrage of attacks in recent weeks over several social media posts and statements he's made in the past.
Talarico's been under fire for, among other things, saying that God is non-binary and that Jesus was a radical feminist. When speaking on climate change, he said that it's, quote, existential, that we must try to reduce meat consumption. He's running for Senate in Texas, remember? And in a separate instance, he said, quote, you can't call yourself a Christian and destroy God's creation with greenhouse gases, seemingly attacking two of his state's biggest industries, oil and beef, and called radicalized white men, quote, the greatest domestic terrorist threat in our country.
And then there was this tweet that was read back to him on stage this week at the South by Southwest Film Festival. Take a listen.
So we've got white skin gives me and every white American immunity from the virus, but we spread it wherever we go, through our words, our actions, and our systems. We don't have to be showing symptoms like a white hood or a Confederate flag to be contagious.
Here's how Talarico responded.
It's an important thing to recognize with all the attacks that are coming from MAGA toward our movement right now. All of them depend on taking these things out of context. In that case, it was a tweet that was part of a larger thread about how we all have a responsibility to combat racism. And so would I word it differently? Would I use a different metaphor? Maybe. But I still believe that racism is wrong. And I still believe that we all have a responsibility to combat it. And I think it's telling when some people are triggered by that.
Now, Talarico went on to criticize Republicans for what he calls one-party rule in his state and issued a warning for his party, too. Take a listen.
We have been suffering for 30 years under one-party rule. And one-party rule, no matter if it's the Republican Party or the Democratic Party, always leads to extremism and corruption because there's not a check on that power. I'm a Democrat because I feel like it's the best vehicle to unite working people so that we can improve the lives of ourselves, our families, and our communities. But if the Democratic Party is not doing that, I have no problem calling it out so that it can do a better job.
I like that podcast is called Raging Moderates. None of those three people on stage are moderates whatsoever. Jessica Tarlov, who I adore personally, and as a Fox commentator, I think she's great. She's not a moderate. Scott Galloway is not a moderate at all. He's deranged in my view. And James Talarico is not a moderate.
He was touted the entire campaign as a moderate. You compared him next to Jasmine Crockett.
Yes, I was wrong.
And read the news reports. Oh, he's a more moderate.
Are you ready for this? I was wrong.
Woo!
I was
Bobby said he
totally
was wrong.
dead wrong. Jasmine Crockett was the more electable candidate of the two. I have never been so wrong. He hates meat, and he loves to mask up for the science, and racism is a virus. Why do people have to talk about racism in this just very like Ivy League sort of? Can't you say racism is bad? Don't be racist, guys, and move on to the next thing. Racism is a virus for which we must inoculate ourselves. This is so off-putting to people. I think it's off-putting to people. Just say racism is bad and move on.
Well, I think it's a metaphor for the spread of racism, not specifically to who to blame it on. Anybody can be racist, right? But I think if we think about racism and how it's embedded, and we've seen historically how it's embedded and has been in laws, in housing practices, housing biases, in school funding gaps in certain neighborhoods, it's embedded systemically in a lot of ways. And so if we consider it still is in a variety of ways. There's still people who don't get certain loans. Like, come on, my parents were one of them. They tried to get a home loan and my dad had like $20 on a credit card that he missed a payment. And they say, oh, because of that blip 10 years ago, I mean, it still is a problem. So, and if you did the same thing, you would get the loan, Robbie. So I do know about that.
In the 1960s, you're right.
You're right.
Today,
This is when I'm just saying it's happened in our history. It's not that a lot of people like to brush off racism as if it's such a historic past. It still is real. But the war on drugs, look what happened. Yes, the war on drugs, stop and frisk in New York. It was people were jailed for no reason that were just looked Spanish or black or Latino or black. So we know there's been rules that have led to racism.
They were stopped for that reason.
And then put in jail. There's people that died in jail that were...
If they were found carrying illegal weapons.
No, read up on the stories, Robbie. I'm not going to break down how many people... I'm
agreeing, they were stopped for racially biased reasons. They were incarcerated because they were,
Ran away from the police, then they didn't do anything.
well, running away from the police is a crime.
Well, maybe they didn't want to get
Except
shot
for
and
nothing.
killed. Maybe they didn't want to get shot and killed.
Well,
Should they
running
be,
away from
should
the
they be
police
in
is the
Rikers
surest
Island?
way to find out.
Should they be in Rikers Island for running away from the police? I just want to
Now
know
you're
for
moving the
someone who
goalpost.
doesn't.
You said
No, this
put
is
in prison for
literally.
nothing. I said, well, were found with
okay.
legal weapons or they ran from the police.
Okay, so the point is he's talking about things that are embedded. We know that extremism happens a lot of times in siloed groups that perpetuate online and in spaces that lead to hate, spreading to other hate. So you get
Like
almost
ISIS.
Indoctrinated. Yes, exactly. Racism could be compared to that. A bad person talks to a bad person. You start to see their side of the story, and then you are racist. Racism has led to deaths. People have died because of racism. Slavery is all because of racism. So do you not think it's equally as bad? I'm confused.
Slavery.
We don't. I never said we do, but we did have it in this country, and the president wants to take it out of our 250th celebration coming up in the summer because he thinks it's too bad. He's lecturing.
Well, James Talarico wants to take takes meat off your plate. That's
James
not a good
Talarico
thing
needs to
run
read the
your
room in the
on.
place that he's running on in Texas.
Okay, thank
My
you.
partner is from Texas. I could say that. But I'm not going to argue that James Talarico can't speak about racism, whether it's profoundly or in a very straightforward way. Anybody who speaks about racism to me is my cup of tea because we need to address it and we need to eradicate it. It's important, like a disease. Get rid of it, unless you think otherwise.
I don't think it's helpful. First of all, that was during COVID. I think it was very weird to be talking about racism as if it was a disease at a time when there was an actual disease.
Oh my gosh.
Well, I'll tell you why this is relevant.
Why?
Because we were all locked in our homes and told not to go outside, have to wear masks everywhere, and refrain from all healthy human activity. And then George Floyd happened, and then suddenly there were mass protests, riots then, in every city in America. And I thought you would have expected the medical community, the experts running our society, to say, hey, don't do that. You can't go outside to protest. You can't go outside to do anything. But instead, Fauci and others gave permission for outdoor activity, for mass social gathering, because racism is also a virus, and this is the way to counteract it. And that was insulting to our intelligence, and that was the first time I said, wait a minute, these people have no idea what they're talking about, and this is about vast social control rather than any kind of disease mitigation efforts.
It's somehow
That's
you
when they
found a
discredited
way
it.
to tie this entire Talarico conversation back to
I didn't.
COVID.
He did because he described it as a disease. And I was saying that was part of a deliberate effort to give social permission for that kind of advocacy, for that kind of social gathering and activity, lefty protesting, and no other.
I'm going to go on a whim and say COVID was the worst time of your life. I thought that,
Mine and millions of other people.
I mean, you're alive, Robbie. You just had to sit inside for a little while. I know you like to go out. I know you like to enjoy yourself. You had to sit
years.
inside for a little while, Robbie.
Well, we don't have time to get into it. It was worse than that, but all right. Senator John Fetterman's blasting his fellow Democrats for their opposition to Israel, especially AOC. We'll be right back after this.